Finding out the truth through other means much later in life doesn't just damages the family as a whole, but it can also severely mentally fuck up the kid as well.
That the man that I thought was my father is not my father. My whole life has been based on one big ass lie. And I know I can't go back and I cannot change things.
But before we get into that, the more widespread insane paternity cases, I think
now, in my personal opinion regarding DNA paternity cases and DNA paternity tests, if they should be mandatory at the birth of every child, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that they should be mandatory or regulated by the government, whereas they are making people get these tests done. On the flip side, I do feel that every man, if you are having a new baby being introduced into your life that you're being expected to claim and take care of, then you definitely need to get a DNA paternity test for that new baby. Whether you're married or not, in my opinion, I believe that you should get a DNA paternity test for that new child, just to give yourself the information you need to make informed decisions for your future and that child's future, and to give you clarity and peace of mind so you don't have any questions regarding the paternity of that baby moving forward. We can get all the clarity out of the way at the beginning, so there's nothing that happens years down the line that causes issues. Let's get into this video. We're going to be watching a reaction video regarding if DNA paternity testing should be mandatory at the birth of every child. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But let's get right into this video. I don't want to waste any more of your time on this intro. Let's get into this video and then we'll chop it up on a real tip.
when it comes to paternity testing, a lot of people like to stick their heads in the sand and make this about not trusting the mother.
The fact that you're even willing to have his child and you're going to now question my loyalty to you, like, oh, this pisses me off. Get rid of him.
But the reality simply is, the consequences for men are a lot more severe than a bruised ego.
You have more than just a couple days in jail to worry about.
It's so easy for a man to be stuck paying child support for a kid that's not his these days.
Pay the $65,000 to support a child that isn't his.
For 10 years, Mick shelled out more than $100,000 only to find out Lockie wasn't his son.
To around about $140,000.
Want me to pay $64,000 for a child that's not mine?
He had to pay support for another man's children.
Let her pay for him. Let her get the man she laid down with to pay for him. He goes free.
I never even slept with her. I got a lawsuit when I was young, and she basically just said, that's the money I'm gonna get, and she got it.
They don't really care about your condition, your situation, your circumstance. They just want their cash.
If you don't...
Hold on. He said he got a lawsuit, set up that he won, and the woman, even the woman, it's like, you got that set up, that's the money, you the daddy. That is crazy.
Pay your child support, then you can be looking at a felony conviction.
I'm getting garnished, I'm getting thrown in jail, I'm getting felony charges.
You have taken our lives. I felt anger, I felt conned.
For a whole year, you basically just lied to me about the biggest factor of my whole life. Like,
it was suddenly like being hit by a sledgehammer.
And she said, I've been having an affair with a man from work. And she said, I'm pregnant with this child.
Did you consider taking your own life?
Many times.
I want to pause there and visit one gentleman said she's pregnant with work. Fellas, if your wife, whatever, has a friend at work, male, or has a work here, or anything, you need to get rid. Okay, he's probably cheating. Let's keep that in mind.
How many other men are you aware of who've taken their lives because of this issue of paternity?
Quite a few.
Really?
Yes, boys, mandatory paternity testing. It has become a very controversial issue, since in general, men love it and women hate it.
And she shouldn't have to submit herself to a paternity test.
I will never ever give him a DNA test. You will need to take me to court.
Now, ironically, these same people that are demanding trust are only demanding it in a one-way direction. Since not only does the woman always have 100% information on whether or not there could be another man involved, while the man must simply trust.
It is a trust issue, and to me, that's a deeper concern.
This also gets compounded by the fact that if that trust was ever broken, it is the man who is now 100% liable to a massive financial burden. And ironically, those same women that want blind trust from men will tell other women to never blindly trust their husbands when it comes to the family finances.
What are some signs that you are the victim of financial abuse? He doesn't give you information about the money.
And not worry if you're going to be okay. So if that's having a bank account that they don't know about, or having money tucked away because it's money you made, that's what you need to do. And it doesn't even have anything to do with trusting a man.
I want to pause here. And this sex is very expensive. This is what this is about me. When it comes to children, if you're not in a relationship where you guys join completely and you split, sex is going to be expensive if you have children, especially for the men. And as we see most of these women, we don't want to get a paternity test and they have. Now, I'm not saying, but these type of women, these situations, only thing that about is that dollars. That's it.
Peace of mind, too, that you have that.
See, funny how that works, huh? That women need assurances and peace of mind when it comes to money, but when the man wants peace of mind and assurances when it comes to his kids, then he's a piece of shit and you should divorce him.
If John was like, I'm absolutely getting a paternity test either way, divorce.
This is the ridiculous nature of this debate, since the reality simply is, these are exactly the same situation, where one party controls all the information and the other party simply wants access to that information. And you can argue all day long that asking for that information is a lack of trust, just like you can argue that not willing to give up that information is a sign that you're hiding something. Now, luckily, there are some women who do understand that in today's society, it is completely understandable that men want those assurances for the most important thing in their lives.
How do you know that a child that is birthed by a woman is in fact your child?
I do believe that maybe it should be mandatory, because as women, we would always know that that child is coming from us, right? How do you guarantee that that is that man's child? It's literally just our word.
And then give that man peace of mind, because you know what, with the statistics that have come out and the data that has come out with how many women cheat in marriages and how many women cheat in general, if I was a man, I would want a paternity test for sure.
See guys, there's still hope. But while the majority of women are shaming men for wanting paternity tests, saying it's a lack of trust, those same women want complete access to your phone and they want to know your location 24/7.
I have every passcode to everything of Tyler's. I have his location, all these things.
If your partner will not show you their phone, they're hiding something.
And if your partner does not want to share their location with you, it's because they don't want you to see something. They're doing something suspicious.
If your partner doesn't have anything to hide, they're going to be like, sure, here, use it.
So what is it, ladies? Should husbands and wives simply blindly trust each other, or should both have complete access to all the available information? Clearly, women only care about full transparency when they are the ones who have to deal with the consequences of not knowing. And on top of that, in this entire debate, there's still one very important factor that's often overlooked, and that is the impact to children when families find out years later that the mother lied about who the real father is.
I find out that he is not my biological father. This obviously was devastating for me. It kick-started panic attacks and health anxiety.
I felt awkward, I felt ashamed, I felt that I was having an identity crisis, I had abandonment issues. It took me a really, really long time to really understand how messed up I was.
Ouch. Please drop a like on the video if you think that preventing paternity testing only protects the mother's ego and hurts everyone else, and comment down below what you think. By now, it's pretty obvious that lying to kids about who their real father is can seriously damage them for the rest of their lives, and it can also lead to a very terrible situation that people aren't even considering or discussing.
I was intimate with my half-brother.
Oh my God. I wanted to start to comment, just watched that. It's very, another reason they paternity are so big, because down the line, children who impacted by the lies when they become born, and the person that thought was their father is not. Even if that person's a good character, that child is still gonna want to know, have a connection to their real father. They're gonna want to know right to them. So getting a paternity test for every new will eliminate a lot of confusion.
But you didn't know.
We didn't know.
Yep, that happened. And trust me, there are even far worse cases than this out there. And so we'll dive into a couple of these real-world situations just to show you how quickly things can spiral out of control. However, before we do, let me first clarify that when I talk about mandatory paternity testing, I'm not talking about testing every single child that is born. Since if you and your spouse simply do not want that, then obviously the government should not be involved and forcing you.
Should it be forced? Should it be optional? Ooh, there's a lot of slippery slopes when it comes to privacy and your like individual liberty.
Right. It goes against saying at the beginning of my beliefs that I believe that it should be mandatory. I don't believe it should make anyone do anything. If they don't want to get it done, then have to. But do I think it should get done? Yes. Whether you're married or not, get yourself a paternity test. But should it be mandatory? Should it be government regulated? I don't believe it.
Exactly. However, if any type of legal proceeding is taking place where the father is required to pay child support, facing jail time for refusing to pay child support, or has any other financial liability to the child or the mother, then I say let's first determine if that guy is actually the father.
But fundamentally, I do agree, there has got to be some kind of proof if you are going to indebt a man for 18 years, potentially more. This should be a mandatory thing.
Now, limiting or even banning DNA testing and hiding behind the excuse of supposedly doing it for the family's or child's best interest, like they do in France, is complete nonsense, since finding out the truth through other means much later in life doesn't just damages the family as a whole, but it can also severely mentally fuck up the kid as well.
That the man that I thought was my father is not my father. My whole life has been based on one big ass lie. And I know I can't go back and I cannot change things.
But before we get into that and the more widespread insane paternity cases, I think it's important to highlight just how easily men can be locked in legally for child support, even when DNA testing proves that they are not the father.
Okay, guys, the last and most common and by far what I consider to be the most dangerous scenario where you could be required to pay child support for a kid that's not yours is in the Title 4D child support scenario. The petition that the state is going to file, it's going to be a petition to establish paternity and to establish child support. So in that petition, they are alleging that you, the father, the respondent, are the biological father of the kids or kids, the kid or kids that are named in the petition. And if you don't contest that, like immediately, and you're screwed, you're done.
Now, critics and male feminists will say that it's all your fault and that you simply should have addressed this in the early stages when you had the chance.
Can you imagine?
Sounds like he's very insecure. I mean, definitely something that like toxic masculine, like I need to have progeny to like extend my seed type shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Just Stop being weird.
However, what these soy clowns conveniently leave out is that many men were never even aware that all of this was going on, since it's very easy for women to scam the system.
Tons of cases where the mom who applied for the benefits puts her home address as the place where dad can be served, and then the process server comes, she accepts service. She says, oh yes, he lives here, she accepts service, right? And then throws it in the fireplace, burns it, throws it away. And dad gets a default, dad gets a child support order against him, and dad never knows that any of that happened until he gets pulled over like a year or two later for a suspended driver's license for unpaid child support.
You see? Now it's very easy to tell men to just find a good woman and marry her so that you won't be dealing with all of this. But the reality simply is that the millions of men who had to deal with this all thought that their wives were honest, faithful, and trustworthy until they had their entire world destroyed.
I felt like I lost a lot. You know, I'd lost my wife, I'd lost the dog, our home, my parents-in-law, her family, and it felt like they'd just been snatched away, just came crumbling down like a house of cards.
But unfortunately, this is the reality that screws over millions of men around the world, since the problems with paying child support go much deeper than just paying for a kid that isn't yours. They will make your life an absolute hell by first setting a ridiculous child support amount that doesn't even make sense if you're doing proper child cost analysis.
What the other methods do is attribute expenditures to children which are not made out of pocket. It's a fiction.
Once the amount of child support has been set, it is often very difficult to get it lowered when the father is struggling financially, which has bankrupted many men and has even sent them to jail.
Let's take a look at this scenario. What happens if you are forced to overpay child support? You inevitably fall behind. Now there's back child support, called an arrearage. In many cases, arrearages have to be paid with interest, so that's even more money out of your pocket. When you cannot pay your arrearage, guess what? Your driver's license gets suspended. Now how are you going to get to work? And speaking of work, when those taxes are taken out of your employment check every 2 weeks, you will not get a tax refund at the beginning of the year to get that money back, because now you have that arrearage and you have the interest. So now that the back child support amount has grown and your license has been suspended, a petition for contempt is filed against you in court. Incarceration. This system is supposed to be about supporting the children. But tell me, how is having incarcerated parents in the best interest of the child?
So with the consequences this severe, it is truly insane how easily a man can be trapped into a financial obligation to a child that isn't even his. Which begs the question, how do you end up in the position of paying child support for a kid that you can definitively prove is not yours? Well, the problem lies in the current laws and how they are enforced. Because even though some viral clips and videos on social media give the impression that new paternity fraud laws have been implemented, they are somewhat misleading to how well they actually protect men. Since these laws only apply in a few very specific jurisdictions, and more importantly, they only govern new child support cases where parentage has not yet been established. And this is exactly where the problem lies for most men.
Number one, a lot of people don't understand the fact that even if they've signed that acknowledgement of paternity, that in and of itself does not give the father legal rights to the children.
Most men who are not married to the mother will simply acknowledge the kid at birth by signing some form of VAP, which is a voluntary acknowledgement of parentage. Now during this time, you are simply excited about having a kid and you're not really thinking about all the consequences of signing that piece of paper. Even though you become fully financially responsible for a child, when you sign a VAP in many jurisdictions, you do not get full parental rights over that same child.
No custodial rights are established by being on the birth certificate until an unmarried father goes to juvenile court and asks for visitation or custodial rights.
This is absolute bullshit and something I wasn't even aware of for a long time. But unfortunately, this is the reality that screws over millions of men around the world, since this doesn't just apply to the US. The Netherlands, for instance, only changed this ridiculous law as recent as January 1st, 2023. So any guy who signed a VAP in December or November of 2022 is still royally fucked, since the mother can demand child support without letting the father have access to the child. So guys, don't just blindly trust, and as always, stay safe out there.
So that was a lot that transpired in that video there regarding DNA paternity in these cases and how it affects these men involved and how it affects even the children involved. So those are two examples right there that support the cause of why DNA paternity testing should happen at the birth of every child. First of all, we'll eliminate maternity fraud, where men are being taken to the cleaners literally by women who just want to throw paternity on the father just because. There was an instance where we heard one man say he never even had intercourse with a woman, but he's paying child support. That's crazy. I don't know how that happened, but with these laws, how they're set up in these different states, it can definitely be possible. And the other example that I can take from the video of why DNA paternity testing should be mandatory is by look at the effects it's having on these children who are now adults, with these children being lied to and misled about who their actual father is their entire life. Then they growing up and realizing, hey, this person is not my real dad and this person is, or I want to find out who it is. Now they're going through all this emotional issues, identity crisis, because their mother wanted to, do whatever she wanted to do regarding the father. And now it affects the child. So we got to think about the children in these situations and not just think about ourselves. They are the ones who are affected and they shouldn't have to go through that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments regarding this. I'd love to hear what you got to say. If you have any questions about DNA, visit our website, goldenlabservice.com. Reach out to us and we'll get you taken care of. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you on the next video.